Hi guys, I'm Ed.
Hi, I'm Hugh.
Welcome to episode 4, Revenge of the... Oh no, hang on. That's the wrong episode 4. Episode 4, looking at the finish of Chris Buck's guitar.
Well, yeah, specifically the neck finish on this one. The body finish is a discussion to be had at some point in the future.
Definitely. So what were the issues with the neck finish then?
Basically, it's just filthy. Vintage Strats vary dramatically in terms of how they look with age, and it's something that's been used as much as this one obviously has been, but also has been neglected for as long as this one has been. It's developed patina, and probably a bit too much patina, I think.
There's a definite aroma of Cwmbran Working Men's Club circa 1974 about
Absolutely.
it,
So the lacquer looks great on camera, and you're probably thinking, leave it alone, it looks amazing, and it does. It looks great on camera. In reality, it's just sticky and gummy and smelly, and it's really horrible.
Have compromises to the playing as well. Your hand gets stuck. It's all gummy.
That's the key thing. Again, you know, when we're not restoring this to like hang on a wall or be part of somebody's collection. Chris is a full-time pro player, and he wants to be playing this Strat on stage and recording with it and gigging with it regularly, and all the way through the overriding factor here is actually making this guitar a viable, reliable, playable instrument. And you know, if there's muckiness on the neck, which is basically inhibiting the movement of his hand, it's getting really gummy as he's playing, you know, under hot lights and all this kind of stuff, the guitar is not going to be pleasant to play. And I've played a lot of vintage guitars like that, and they're horrible, you know.
Check back in some of our other videos where we've looked at sort of cleaning off gunk from vintage guitars, because it's worthwhile doing. You ultimately want your instrument to be as playable as possible, don't you?
Absolutely. So in essence, what we're going to be doing in this video is discussing how to clean off vintage Fender finish, any vintage guitar finish that's nitrocellulose really, and also we're going to be taking a look at those tuners, because it's the original set of Klusons,
which is great,
and they barely turn. They're not in particularly good condition. It's quite possible that Chris is going to end up wanting to replace these tuners, but I want to give them a really, really kind of fair go. So we'll be discussing how to refurbish a set of vintage tuners, how to clean them, how to lube them up so that they're actually hopefully be capable of delivering another 50 years of loyal service.
Hopefully. So, okay, enjoy.
I've already made a start trying to clean off all this mucky nicotine, grunge and gunk or whatever is on the this nice old lacquer. This has come out really nicely. It's still got this wonderful kind of honey nutty kind of look. This is really just dirt. It probably looks great on the camera, as I've said before, but it's actually pretty horrible and sticky and not very nice. So I've had great success with this stuff, which is Virtuoso Premium Cleaner, and I've had this bottle for a few years and done a lot of work with it, but I needed more, and I'm horrified to discover that it's no longer seems to be in production. Certainly not available in the UK, and then I found this from All Parts, which is Legend quality cleaner, and I ordered some on the off chance and was delighted to discover it's exactly the same bottle, it's exactly the same smell, it's exactly the same colour, and it appears to do exactly the same thing. So I'm going to buy several more bottles of this straight away in case they decide to stop making this. So let's see what we can do with this bit, and then we'll flip the headstock over and clean the front. Just got a little bit on the guitar. Love the way you can see the router hole just by there. Because this is non-abrasive, it actually takes a bit of time to do. But I can see on the cloth that the dirt is just transferring straight across. Don't want to allow it to dry out. Just keep rubbing, no real skill to this. It's more about patience. Okay, so I'll stop filming here and show you how it looks when I finally get this to the point where I'm happy. And here we are. It's all cleaned up, looking pretty tidy on the back. Just a more regular colour. You can see the original colour of the lacquer there, and the tuners, where the tuners go. It was much lighter, so it's still got a ton of patina on it. And if we just flip that over like that, the front of the headstock's been done too. I was really careful with this because I didn't want to damage the decal in any way. This is just a delicate water slide decal that's just sitting on top of the lacquer, so there's absolutely no way I'm going to go over it with anything even remotely abrasive or corrosive. I just kind of cleaned in as close as I dared with cotton bud or various cotton buds, because so much dirt was coming off it. And I followed up the cleaner with some polish and a buff up with a cotton cloth. I'm not shooting for like a pristine finish here. It's not what this guitar is all about. I think it's still got all the trappings and charm of its age, but it's no longer filthy dirty. I've also done the end of the neck. Just to get a little bit of the dirt off it, but you know, this colour is deeply ingrained and looks kind of cool, so I'm happy to go with that. And with regard to the back of the neck, where there really isn't much finish left at all, if any, I think it's a case of Chris playing it really and just seeing how it feels. I mean, there's every possibility that it will kind of gum up and get kind of sticky in a gig situation, and then that's maybe something we're going to need to talk about. But I'm real pleased with that, and this neck can actually go back on the body. I'm going to try stringing it up and seeing what it sounds like acoustically. Exciting moment. Got the tuners soaking in a little bath of naphtha, and I'm going to leave these in for a couple of hours. You can see all that nicotine build up on the tuner buttons, all that brown stuff. I'm going to try and clean that off with some Autosol chrome cleaner at some point. When it's plastic buttons, I try and keep the plastic outside of the naphtha. But yeah, a couple of hours and we'll come back to it very shortly. Okay, sorry about the noise in the background, got the tumble dryer going. These have been soaking for quite some time, and I can see that there's a load of debris in the bottom of the jar, so let's get all these out. Okay, so that's pretty filthy stuff. A lot of debris on the bottom of that. All these tuners seem to turn okay. This one's a little bit grindy. This one's really loose, and it's got the end snapped off about there. So maybe this will work for. Well, it is the high E string. Oof, I'm gonna have to do something about that. Yeah, that one's a little bit stiff. This one too. Not too bad. Right, so as I turn it, I can actually feel debris coming out. So I'm going to flush these out now with a little bit of clean naphtha, and then we'll get some grease in there, and hopefully these will be usable tuners. Okay, so what I'm going to be using here is just a syringe type thing filled with a clean naphtha, and I'm just going to press it on the outside, and it just forces the liquid through the lubrication hole there. Okay, not too bad. Okay, I'm going to do that with all 6 of these and set them aside just to dry off a little bit. We'll think about cleaning up the buttons and getting some lubrication in there. And that's pretty much it for now. You can see by the state of my hands, well, I really should have worn gloves, but there you go. That's the naphtha I've used to flush them out, so you can see how dirty and full of dust and particles and one thing and another that is. And if I pour the soaking naphtha in there as well, you can see it's managed to get off a hell of a lot of dirt from both the inside and the outside, I would imagine. So these might end up getting put away in the case for posterity, and we'll put a repro set on. But at any point these could go back on and the guitar could be restored to its original factory appearance. So I'm going to be using this stuff, lithium grease, which I find really good for this type of task, and just this syringe with the grease put in from the back. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to use these lubrication holes for their intended purpose. So I'm going to just pop that on there and force the grease in. Okay, it pays to have a tuner winder on hand, so you can actually spin this around nice and quickly, work the grease in. Have a bit of fun here. This is the original nut that actually came out in one piece, and I've back veneered it with a piece of rosewood. I'm going to have a shot at making this work because it's really stable, it looks great, presumably it will work, but of course the new frets mean that the slot's probably going to be a little bit too deep, and it had already previously been shimmed. I've cleaned out the nut slot, and I've done a trial fit with this. I just need to thin the veneer a little bit, and then probably going to pack the low E slot with a little bit of bone dust and super glue, and just going to see if I can make this work. No reason to change it unless we have to. I've taped a piece of 320 grit paper onto the fingerboard here, and that enables me to use the curvature of the fingerboard to get the curve spot on the bottom of the nut itself. Just dropping it down a little bit now. Don't need to take a great deal off, just a fraction. You can go across, or you can go front and back. I try not to put any downwards pressure on and just let the paper do the work, really. Keep those strings well out of the way. Just need to be careful with this and just do it a little bit at a time. I want to get things pretty much in the ballpark, and then if I need to make some tiny adjustments to the nut slots themselves, then that's no problem at all. And hopefully this piece of veneer will be so thin that you barely see it from the sides of the slot. Okay, I'm going to pop this in and see if it works. The nut is in and it's really not far off. Probably need to do a little bit of work on the low E slot, and I think the B string slot is just pinching the string very, very slightly. But apart from that, it should be a few minutes work and I can get this thing sorted and fine-tuned. I'm quite pleased to reuse the original nuts. There's no reason as such to replace it. It's never broken, it's never snapped. It looks cool, it's always been with the guitar. As long as I can get these slots working as smooth as they would on a new nut, and there's no reason why I shouldn't be able to do so. Keeps a bit of the history of the guitar going forward, and should be entirely functional. And if it doesn't work out, I'll just make a new one.
So hope you enjoyed that. Hugh got his lube out, he got his gears turning.
Thank you, Ed. Really appreciate that, mate.
Anyway, enough about our private life.
We should probably take that out.
So, got the gears turning again?
Yeah, everything's seems to be pretty good with those tuners. I mean, obviously, Chris might not end up using them long term, but for most people, I think this would be a pretty viable set. So I'm pleased with the way that's turned out.
They work remarkably well now. The guitar stays in tune fantastically well, doesn't it?
Yeah, although there's that one broken post, so that's something that we're probably going to have to address. The other thing I'm pleased about is the way that the finish is cleaned up. So we managed to get all that gunk off the surface of the nitro, but also underneath it's got such a beautiful kind of colour, and I really like the way it looks. The decal's still in great shape, and managed to pull out some of the gunk from the back of the neck as well. So again, only time will tell. When Chris has got a couple of gigs under his belt with this guitar, then you know, he can report back and let us know whether it's, you know, good or not. But like I said, time will tell.
Fingers crossed. Brilliant. Okay, well, thanks very much. Please hit subscribe, guys, so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Let us know any sort of comments, any suggestions, any tips you guys have for cleaning old guitars. And we'll see you in part 5, which is going to be about...
Oh yeah, we're going to start thinking about the electronics. So one thing I want to do is, when I redo the electronics, I want to make the wiring look as good as possible. Just make it look like it would have done when it, you know, came out of the factory originally. There's a couple of bits of original wire in there. The rest of it is long gone. But I'm going to take some modern cloth covered hookup wire, and I'm going to relic it up to try and make it match the vintage wire. And we're going to send the pickups off and hopefully get the pickup wires replaced as well.
Brilliant. Well, look forward to seeing all that in episode 5 coming up soon. Please subscribe and we'll see you then. Thanks, guys. Hwyl fawr.
Tabo.